There we go. So hello and welcome everyone to the Newtonville Area Council meeting, our January meeting. We have most of our members here. I'm here as president, Martina Jackson, vice president, Carolyn Gabay as secretary, Dana D'Agostino as treasurer. Then we have Nancy Greenberg and Aline Samet is here. We are missing right now one of our members who is on a work emergency. So we are going to, I would like to make the motion.
Did you get Dana?
What?
Yeah,
Okay.
we have.
Sorry?
I didn't hear Dana's name.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, we have on our agenda, the first item is to vote in officers for this year. I would like to make a motion to move that portion to the end of the presentation we're having today.
Madam President.
Break from the agenda and just have at the end when we do have Tim here who can vote and hopefully his work emergency will be done by that point.
Yeah.
We have more people coming in, but we're going to go ahead and start. So the second item on the agenda was a recap of the meeting that we had presented at on Monday, the 23rd. We were invited to present our views on village zoning, the village zoning overlays maps that were being presented. And we basically came up with 5 points that we wanted to discuss. Basically, we wanted to show some of the images that we have in the presentation tonight, and we were not allowed to do that. So we just made note that we had these images. We were concerned about the local businesses and the impact that this would have on them, the disruption that would cause, and really kind of placing them out of business due to the increased costs through the new developments and new spaces. We were concerned about the impacts of infrastructure and traffic that had not been studied yet, which would be affected by this new rezoning and the amount of building that would be going on. We did not get to say that because of the time status, but it was important for us. And then we also argued that we are not really truly a transit-oriented development kind of village. We do have the commuter rail, but it doesn't really come by as much as it used to. The buses have been curtailed. We've not grown the green line like other villages, and we just have kind of a mess up here with public transportation. We also wanted to put on record that we felt like when the planning department and zoning and planning tell us that they're just going to zone it and that no one's going to build out that much, that we believe that that's not true, that eventually all of this will get zoned and it will get built out to the maximum zoning that is allowed, because that is what a developer is going to do. They, basically, they're not going to leave any money on the table or any meat on the bone. They're gonna take everything. So we just wanted to bring up those 5 points. We did have our 4 minutes to talk. It was a very, very quick 4 minutes, unfortunately, which we had longer, but everyone had 4 minutes. There was also, I want to say, 6 other groups representing Newtonville, if anyone, I think that's right, who all basically had very similar concerns to ours. Again, it's not that we're opposed to fixing the zoning, it's that we just caution the amount of upzoning that's happening as a BC3 up and down Walnut Street and Washington Street. And we have to be careful that we're not overbuilding this area. So we have been, I think, talking about this for 4 or 5 meetings now. It's, I think we started in the summer where we were encouraging people to go fill out the survey and get their message heard. We introduced it when it came out originally and sent the maps out so that everyone could see. And then we had several presentations of people coming in to talk about their concerns and what they saw happening in their village centers. So to that end, I think it was 2 meetings ago, we voted to appropriate money to get renderings created that would illustrate the effect of this new zoning overlay, because we requested multiple times to the planning department to have it done, and we were told that they would not be doing it. I understand that it is possibly coming now, but we still have not seen that. So we're kind of making all these decisions and not really understanding what could be coming. So Carolyn, I don't know if you want to add anything before you start the presentation. Anything I missed?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say, and by way of prelude, that following on that allocation decision, Dana and I, we and some other people interviewed multiple urban planners to retain for this purpose. And we also investigated modeling software to see if we could get a license for it and do it ourselves, recognizing our competency limits with GIS data, etc. We elected to retain one of the professional urban planners and have his company prepare the modeling information that you're about to see. We went through several different iterations to make sure that we were covering the territory of our village center and the proposal. And we got the assistance of people who follow even more closely than we the details as they're evolving of the proposals, and pressure tested this presentation of these modeling images to make sure that they conform to that which has, at least so far, been announced. We know it's an evolving process, but as of today, we believe that these are accurate, with one coda that I will explain as we get to that slide, and we will own upfront that inaccuracy of the work that has been done here by the urban planner.
Okay. You want me to go ahead and share?
I would like that. Okay. And Jennifer and I will, in tandem, walk you through the product.
Hold on one moment. Let's get to the.
Okay, so let me find it.
Oh, God, what is this?
Hold on. Excuse me, Margaret, can you please mute yourself? Thank you.
Got it. But then I
Sorry,
can't.
everyone.
Everyone needs to mute except for the speakers. Thank you.
Jennifer, do you want
Okay,
to
can
do
you
a
see?
virtual meeting?
Can you
Yes,
see
I can
the?
see your screen. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hold on one second. There we go. So I just wanted to remind everyone before we go ahead and start the presentation that these zoning, or what the zoning maps actually look like. Sorry, it's kind of hard to do. This is what we have. We're given the draft of what we have now, and everyone has probably seen this next one. Okay. Oops. Which is the map.
We'll go back.
Yep. You got it? This is the map that we used was distributed by the zoning and planning department, and that we use to do all of our research and renderings. So Carolyn?
Yes, and we also used the draft zoning ordinance text. So what you are seeing here in this first slide, as it says in the upper left-hand corner, is the existing, it's a view. Let me orient you, and Jennifer, you have the cursor at hand. So
Yep.
this, if it's a little small, but that is the Star Market building. This is Newtonville's Village Center,
Oh, yeah.
Star Market building. Across the pike from it, you see Trio. Want to highlight Trio for orientation?
Trio is here.
No, other direction. Across
Oh,
the
sorry,
pike.
Trio. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
Trio across the pike. Now coming back to the Walnut Street south, I think that is, of the pike, you will see the Masonic building. Can you grab the Masonic? Yep.
Yeah.
No, one down. Masonic building.
Yep.
And then as you come down Walnut Street towards the bottom of the screen, you'll see a light blue building on the little to your left. That's the current senior center. And I hope that gives people just enough landmarks to orient to the geography. So what we're looking at here is an overhead view. You can see Walnut Street, Washington Street. You can see the sign, the Lowell Avenue. And as you go around and see a black border, if you want to trace that through, Jennifer,
Mhm.
that is the demarcation of the area that is being suggested for upzoning. So we have that whole area identified. Now, talking a little bit about the colors that we see here, if you look just a little bit down from where your cursor is, Jennifer, you'll see in Lowell Avenue, the existing green grass space that we have. And that green is green grass. You'll see greens later, but they will not be green grass. That's because the zoning maps articulated lines for zoning areas using a color code that included green. So I want to keep coming back and explaining that we're not looking at green space, we're not looking at lawns, we're looking just at the zoning demarcation. So this is the current zoning. And if you want to move to the next slide,
Coming.
you want to advance it?
Actually,
Yeah,
quite.
there we go.
Okay.
Just slow.
Hi, Councilor Baker. Hello.
there.
You didn't miss much. We just showed the existing zoning lines. And here is the proposed rezoning with potential build out. Now, here is where I'm going to own an error. The olive green area is the VC1 area. The VC1 area is understated. That is not open area. It would be filled in because the densification would permit, if you look at 69 Highland Avenue, for example, where we see one or two structures, it would be fillable with 4 structures.
Larry, they can hear you.
Somebody needs to mute, please. Everybody needs to mute, please.
Stephen Glinner.
Yeah, thank you. So what we're looking at here is a potential build out as proposed for upzoning, with the caveat that this is understating what the potential for build out is. For example, if you go to the Washington Street Park side of Walnut Street, you see what appears like courtyards. Those would be allowed to be infilled completely. The only reason we did not infill them further is because the zoning, the modeling software is incapable of contemplating that level of density. The software has been created for urban planners to do massing exercises, and the software refuses to infill those areas to the extent the zoning proposal would infill them. And the same is true across the street in some of the VC3 areas that are depicted in red. We have a very little amount depicted in bright blue, which are the VC2 areas, because we don't have that much VC2 proposed for us. But so just keep bearing in mind that the VC1 areas are universally understated in these diagrams and the images that follow. Did you want to add something to that, Jennifer?
No, I mean, I think, again, you're going to see it later with the trees that still exist because it couldn't wipe off those trees. So just need to keep in mind that, we did have Pam Wright was able to look at these, and she was able to confirm that there were more and more structures that would be filling that spot. So, you know, it looks open, but it's not. And I think we explained it properly.
Okay, so we can go to the next slide, and what you'll see is a retake of what we just did from the opposite angle. So just for orientation purposes, we see here we're looking in the other direction. So we've got Trio. You want to circle Trio?
Yeah. Mhm.
We've got Trio. We've got the Star Market over the Mass Pike. We've got Austin Street, the 28 Austin Street building. And if you go across the street, we've got the Masonic building.
Oh, sorry.
Here we are. And up and down Walnut Street. And if you,
Name of the
again,
meeting?
you see the outline of the area proposed for upzoning, running along Court Street, running along Lowell Avenue, running along Foster Street, and in this side of town, running a bit to the right on the behind Lowell Avenue buildings, one of which happens to have been a stop on the Underground Railroad, a residence right over there, but it too is proposed for upzoning. There's a request in the chat, Jennifer, for you to universally mute everybody because people are experiencing some background noise.
Yep.
Can you mute everybody and then let me and you back in?
I've been trying to mute people and they keep on muting themselves. So
Well, there you go.
eyes of futility at this point.
You need to
trying.
learn. You need to learn from Nancy Pelosi.
So
Okay.
the names are iPhone Bessie, Howard Rose, Stephen Gliner. Please turn off your microphones and mute. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Eileen. Thanks, Eileen. So again, this is the existing view. We did the same thing from the other side. And now, if you carry on to the next slide, this is what it would be upzoned to. Again, the green areas are merely showing zoning of VC1. They are not fully infilled as would be allowable. They are not green grass and they are not trees. So this is what the community's village center would be able to be built up to. Can you go to the next slide unless you wanted to add something, Jennifer?
No, I think, covered. Oh,
Next thing we had the urban planner professional do was a shadow study. And so what you are seeing here on the left of the yellow line is the existing Newtonville Center. And to the right, you are seeing the upzoned proposal. The time that this picture is imaging is spring and fall equinox when the day is equally long. And this would be 9 a.m. So you can see, for example, the shadow on Walnut Street is de minimis. And with the build out, the shadow increases. Again, to the left of Walnut Street, we are not seeing an appropriate image. It would be fuller and more shady. That is at 9 a.m. in the spring fall equinox. Next slide. We went through the day and now we get to, not surprisingly, noon. Sun is overhead. Shadow is not a problem. Next slide. Spring fall equinox at 4 p.m. Walnut Street and the current situation has some shadow, but I'm going to ask you to increase the magnification just a little bit, if you can, so that people can see that by 9 a.m., I'm sorry, this is 4 p.m. If we go to us, Walnut Street is engulfed in shadow. 4 p.m. at the spring fall equinox. And it's this problematic also along Highland Street, for example, in a VC1 area. Let's go to the next slide. Carrying on through the seasons, we have the summer solstice when the day is longest. Summertime at 9 a.m., we have limited shadow at 9 a.m. in the summer in both images. And if you carry on to the next one, not surprisingly, we find that when the sun is directly overhead at noon, we don't have a shadowing issue. And if we carry on till the next one, At 4 p.m. in the dead of summer, we already have Walnut Street engulfed in shadow. And again, I'm going to reiterate it. The infill on Highland Street, for example, in the VC1 is understated. Now we get to the winter solstice. At 9 a.m., the existing view, we have shadow problems. It's the winter, it's New England. Can you zero in on the potential view in the this 9 a.m. winter solstice picture, Jennifer, by increasing the magnification a little bit? Don't go to the next one, go back. Yeah, just make it bigger. Can you just?
Try.
Oh, okay. Well, and if you center this view, you will see that Austin Street, Walnut Street, Lowell Avenue, Madison Avenue, much of Washington Park, much of Highland Avenue. I'm sorry, Highland Avenue, not street. Pardon me, somebody corrected me. Those are all already engulfed in shadow. Newtonville Avenue suffers as well. And I'm just concentrating on this side of the pike, as you will see, because, you know, Foster Street and Lowell Avenue and Central Avenue and Court Street have their own shadowing issues, but I was just centering on it because we will come later to greater in-depth study of Walnut Street on the south side of the pike. Noon, still shadowy, but it's noon. The sun is overhead. What could you know, it would be expectable that the shadow would dissipate. Now in the winter solstice, let's go not to 4 p.m., but 3 p.m. And we have shadow problems. It's the winter. If you enlarge the potential build-out view and center it over a little bit, everything you can see there is fully engulfed in shadow. And that is so even in the VC1 areas that are understated, where the infills are not present between Madison Avenue and Washington Park, on Highland Street, where the infill is not present. But Walnut Street, Austin Street, Newtonville Avenue, Madison Avenue, Washington Park, all totally engulfed in shadow by 3 p.m. and surrounding areas too. Same problem on the other side of the pike for Court Street, Foster Street, sections of Lowell Avenue. Yeah, we can go to the next image just to move it along. The next image, you'll see both views, looking north, looking south. Why don't we start with the comparative views existing over to the left upper top corner, just to give people an orientation, because it's, you know, that's the Masonic building, just to orient, and we know where the Star Market is, and we know where 28 Austin is. And across the way, this one was taken when Trio was under construction. Now, on the right, what you will see is the program threw in what they call massing structures to see what the build-out would look like. And again, we need to own this inaccuracy. Like at Highland Street, those trees, not even just because of construction teardowns of destruction of mature trees, but because there would be the ability to have by right buildings in there. These images are showing trees where trees would be gone, and are not showing the full infill of buildings. And the lower images do the same thing, viewing from the opposite direction. Can we go to the next then, I think? Now, what we've done next is we've taken a look, and now we start concentrating on Walnut Street.
So these are the people who are against the zoning
Oh,
stuff, and they're
excuse
showing
me.
like what it would.
Hello, can you please mute?
Can you please mute your comments?
Donna Lynn Khan, thank you.
Thank you, Donna. So here we are looking at the Walnut Street area, commercial area. As you'll see, the Masonic building on the left, iconic, obvious. Little less obvious here is that this image was taken at a time when the Walnut Street enhancements, which have been very successful, kudos to the city, which spent a lot of time with a lot of citizen input, you know, creating an activated area along Walnut Street where people come to socialize, where the students come out for their lunchtime, where people sit. This is in process of that. You don't see the red sidewalk place yet, a street crossing place yet. So you can see that this is not quite finished, but you see the rearrangement of Walnut Street where it was narrowed by the bump outs and the parking rearrangement. You see the CVS, which is now vacant, but actually that vacancy is one of only 3 vacancies in Walnut Street in this section. We have a vibrant business community there where not only are businesses that survived the COVID and survived the construction of Walnut Street, which cut them off from their customers, have new businesses popped up. We have a new restaurant. We have the new, I know it's Tariq's favorite, the Donut Villa. Union Pharmacy just moved in across the street. They know the area well, and they know that it's a vibrant place to be. And we have just got stores working well there.
Yeah, I mean, we have a pharmacy, a bakery, clothing and gift store that's been there for a long time, a laundromat, nail salon, hair salon, barber shops, 2 of them, I believe, optician, UPS store, and the post office, the dry cleaner, the tailor, the supermarket, the toy store, and multiple coffee stores, coffee shops for everyone. And you know, it's really, we're really thriving. Surprisingly, I thought that when COVID, we would, you know, things would go away, but it really seems to be bouncing back now.
Yeah, we are a vibrant village center in good shape, and people are patronizing and maintaining these businesses. Let's go on to the next. Ready for the next?
Yep, I'm
Here we
trying.
go. Now, this is what is zoned for that area, and let's go on to that in more detail. So what you're seeing here, whoops,
Oh,
don't
wait,
go.
sorry. All right.
Yeah, I'll move along faster, but that's a bit of a prod. What we're seeing here is the first floor with the requisite amount of transparency of the increased height for the retail. You're seeing this building is taken from Trio. It shows the plane breaking internal setbacks to try to reduce the sense of massing. This building is a by right structure. It conforms to the allowance. It is allowed to be this big without a special permit. It is allowed to be this tall without a special permit. The top floor is set back as the setback requirements would be for a so-called 4.5 story building. But as you can see, as it juxtaposes to the Masonic building, that so-called half story is a story, and the first floor has grown up by a half story. So for example, if you went into the elevator to go up to the top floor to your apartment, you would not see a button that said 4.5, you would see a button that said 5. So this is a 5-story building by right. And the dimensions of it have been pressure tested against the zoning proposal, and this is permissible by one developer to build together. And of note, at the edge by Masonic, where the empty CVS building is, this is the height of building that the new owners of that building proposed. They came to the Newtonville Area Council in anticipation of seeking a special permit to accomplish this for a portion of this block. They didn't do very well in front of us at that time. The neighbors were quite irate. They were extensively negotiating with Masonic, and I don't know whether the Masons reached an agreement with them. And the proposal has sort of, I'm going to say, gone.
It's been put on pause.
It's been put on a pause.
Yes, there's, as far as I understand, they're in negotiation right now, trying to figure out some things with the Masonic next door neighbors. So regarding and things like that. So that's what I've heard from the lawyer. That's not official. I don't know, but that's kind of what we have been told.
Right.
Sorry.
Right. And so this is what somebody, at least for a piece of this strip, wants already to build. So it's not fanciful here.
It would be about to this bay.
Yeah. So now, let's see if we can move on a little bit more. There's a lot here. This is again an overview. You see in the foreground the Star Market parking lot, which we all love to park in. You see the 28 Austin Street. You see Bramway under construction, just to orient you. That's the world. Down to the right-hand edge is the senior center, which itself, we didn't address it in this photo montage, that itself will be built up into a multi-story building. Can we continue on? So there's the building we just talked about that's permissible by right as a single building. Can we continue on? That is also a building that is permissible by right under the proposed zoning. We measured up. Yes.
Sorry, I just want to say we decided to build it out this way and give you pieces because we understand that, you know, no one's going to come in tomorrow, buy everything up and develop it right away. So this is to kind of show you a progression. It may not go in this order, it may be all over, but this is kind of what the perception would be if a developer took interest and started developing the area. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's quite right. This is what we do. We're doing it build out by build out, whether this takes 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. That is, you know, to be seen. The speculation is that it will not necessarily be built out all at once or particularly quickly, but there you have it. Carry on to the next. That too would be permitted by right. So that would be one side of the block. If we carry on again, the senior center, by the way, to be NewCal, is not addressed here. This is another building because the parking lot for the Star Market has been proposed for VC3 zoning. What Star Market would have to do would be sell that part of its property, and then a developer would no doubt give them parking rights. And this is the building that a model of what could be built there too. Carrying on to the next group that at some point somebody could purchase and build. That is what the zoning proposal would be for that spot. And again, let's continue to grow and we'll take the next building that could be placed on Walnut Street. And again, we see yet more as we carry on down to the corner. So that is the way the property is zoned or to be zoned. There are a limited number of property owners. So these buildings we have conceptualized here accord pretty much with areas that could be, yes, we did take into account maximum footprint. Thank you, Councilor President Albright. Yes, we did. And square footage and setback requirements. So this is pretty much what could be built by right. No special permits needed, no mitigation payments paid because no special permits involved. And this is what the vision of Newtonville's Walnut Street could become 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. The speculation of how long it would take is speculation, but you know, pure speculation versus real estate speculation, you know which one wins all the time. Can we go to the next image? And this is a view of what we have now, and let's carry on from there. This is a massing image. The program here is not putting in photorealistic buildings. The program here is putting in massing structures, and we begin to address what it looks like in the VC1, 2 areas, the VC1 areas that are behind the street front of Walnut Street itself. The buildings behind have been proposed for upzoning. Again, we need to own an error, and that error is the trees would not exist, and the areas would be subject to much greater infill because, as I said at the beginning, the software program refuses to contemplate that level of density. I think that's the last slide, and I think.
Yeah, and I think
Jennifer?
one thing that you that you didn't mention that I think we had discussed earlier is that, you know, again, this is all speculation that this stuff can get built, but what we also don't want to happen is to have, you know, a developer come in, start the process here, you know, tear everything down, and then have the financing go through or fall under, or put a pause on it, just like they did down on Dunstanese, where now we have a huge hole in the ground. We've lost all the, I mean, there wasn't a lot of business there. We lost the business, we lost the buildings, and now there's just a big, you know, lot of dirt. And I think something like that would really be detrimental to our village center, to, you know, come down Walnut Street and have a big, you know, empty lot here. That would be sad. It'd be really sad for us. So
And if I,
kind of concerned about having someone come in and kind of be able to build all of this at their leisure and really kind of cause havoc.
yeah, and another consideration is, let us assume that indeed this takes 5 years or 7 or whatever to build out as it progresses. That will be unrelenting construction in this area that will be a burden on all of the businesses that are trying to stay in business there, and will be a disruption to the community for that period of time. It's a very inviting proposal for a developer, but for the community, it will be a very disruptive one.
Okay. I just want to say thank you. That's the end of this presentation. Thank you, Carolyn and Dana, for really spearheading this. I gave you the mantle of figuring all this out and going with it, and you guys ran with it and did back a really fantastic product. So thank you. Martina, you have a question or comment?
Yes, I wanted to make 2 comments. One is that I have spoken to a number of the businesses in the area, and I heard, for example, the bakery and several others, they have been very clear that they could not withstand construction and development. We know, for example, that the Newtonville camera was relocated from the north side of Washington Street and now is in Waltham, and it's not coming back. But these stores are even smaller. And to your point, Jennifer, about the vibrancy of the center, I mean, you have what I think I sent to several of you, a 15-minute village center, which is what Councillor Downs has been advocating, and that is that you can walk to everything, including the laundromat. It's just to understand, if you think about how these businesses could not survive, what would survive are the 8 banks or 7 banks, because the Chase isn't there yet. But that's something that is really important to consider. I was part of the earlier phase of this, and now that I see it in its full development, it really does drive home what we're looking at, and especially the idea that we would take a vibrant, really a 15-minute walk village center and harm it. And that is very much of concern to all of us.
Can I just add, I think I made the point along the way, I may not have. As we built out these buildings, one of the considerations that has been questioned is whether lot assembly would be a challenge. And I went to the assessor's database and looked to see the number of property owners there are, and they're very limited. So basically, when we built out these buildings, I think this image that you're seeing now, yes, this image that you're seeing now, the first building that we inserted involves just 2 property lot owners. The others are essentially 1 owner, building by building. So lot assembly would not be a supreme challenge. And lot assembly is something that developers address all the time. In addition, long-term leases, which are often, when they're considered long-term, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 years. Long-term leases, I think, from my legal practice experience, are something that you conquer routinely either by buying out the lease and arranging to help relocate the building, as Newtonville Camera, which Martina just mentioned, is Newtonville Camera of Waltham now. That's just part of the development process. You buy out the lease because the economics make that highly feasible. Or you just help the tenant relocate in some other kind of real estate deal, the way Shoe Barn has been relocated when the Dunstan East property was assembled, and they were relocated with, I assume, a very favorable rent arrangement.
Is there anyone else on the Newtonville Area Council who'd like to speak before we get to questions from the audience? Okay. We're going to try something new this time because I know this is very contentious. We're trying to limit the amount of response time or questions that are given. Aline, I don't know if you still volunteer to be timekeeper.
Maybe no investment. She's
Aline?
like same budget crisis for many years, more than I
Oh,
can
who's
count.
that? Hold on.
I apologize for reading.
There we go. Aline?
Sorry, I couldn't get my unmute.
Oh, there we go. Good.
I'm happy.
You volunteer to be timekeeper?
Yeah,
You still
Yeah.
want to do
Tell me
that?
tell me what you would like for time.
Okay, I would say 2-minute time with a warning and then an extra 30 seconds after that. Is that okay?
Okay. So I'm gonna give, so my suggestion is like a 5-10 second warning. And then give them 30 seconds. I mean,
Yeah,
give
you
them
can just say 2 minutes is up and then.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
So Counselor Lucas, you had your hand up first?
Yes, I did. Wow, this is really impressive. And I just want to say thank you to the Newtonville Area Council and all parties involved who were responsible for this presentation. You have provided some much needed transparency to this process. So again, thank you very much. These renderings, as Carolyn said, are not 100% accurate, but they do paint a picture of what the village center will look like. And this is what they will be built if they are going with the by right option. I do have a question for you, Jennifer, or anyone else on the Newtonville Area Council. Will the PowerPoint and will this Zoom recording be on the NAC webpage?
We will definitely, we do give out our recordings after to people who request them, and it's something that a lot of people have requested. We can also share the PowerPoint so that people can see. I think it's very important for this to go out. In addition, we are going to send it to the Zoning and Planning Committee as our testimony for the January 23rd meeting. So this is, we were talking to them, we have our notes and we have an appendix, but we wanted to give this to you guys first so everyone could see it and then turn it over to them after we get responses. So
Okay.
it will be available, and I will try to make sure people see it. And any, counselor, if you have it,
You don't have to stay, but you got the message.
So I'll recommend that if you can try to get it on your webpage and direct people to your webpage. That way there's a URL associated with the PowerPoint. That's all.
Yes.
So
Yep.
other than that, thank you again. And I'm all set.
Thank you. Okay, President. Albright, you
Nice
have-
job. He did it on 2 minutes.
Good job, Tariq.
Oh, and wait, one more thing. Donut Villa, I've only been there once, Carolyn, so it's not my favorite one. So I just want to put that out there to everyone.
Counselor Lucas has no favorites. He loves all of Newtonville. President Albright, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, thanks very much. So I want to thank you all for the time and effort that you put into this, and not to mention the expense. So it's a great tool that we can use. I would hope that you can share this with the planning department this coming week and have them go over it with you, make sure they understand all your assumptions. I think that would help a lot. I wanted to make a comment about the vibrancy of Newtonville. I think if you compare Newtonville to many of the other villages in Newton, there is a lot more vibrancy, a lot more going on. People use it as a destination. And I think some of that, at least in large part, I think, is due to the existence of Trio and Austin Street and the new plaza and all the stores that came with that. If I recall correctly, we had huge battles over Austin Street and Trio. And a lot of folks said it was going to ruin Newtonville. And I think it has proven to do exactly the opposite. With respect to VC1, I think you know that we're making lots of changes to VC1. So it'd be great to do this as VC1 changes, to do this again and see what happens, because we really want VC2 to focus on adaptive reuse of existing houses. So I think we realized that VC1 was a bit of a problem. With respect to parking, we don't really know what's going on with respect to parking. I know that the CVS building, I went to a lot of meetings, the issue was they can't do underground parking over there because they don't want to disturb the Masonic building. So underground, we don't know what your assumptions are with parking, and it would be great to have that conversation. You know, overall, it's a great first cut, and thanks for putting all the time into it. It's really, really, really important that the assumptions be understood and studied with the planning department, and I hope that will happen next week. You know, I question whether all of this work could be done without a special permit, especially some of the larger buildings, because you're combining lots and it's a large footprint. So lots of stuff to study here.
Yeah, well, we were very careful. We know, that we've seen other presentations that have been almost torn apart, based on someone making an assumption that didn't quite fit in with what the planning department had said and what they issued. So we were very careful. Like I said, we had a certified urban planner help us out with this. And of course they weren't, they're not immersed in our specific zoning issues, but they are very competent and know zoning and know how all the technology and terminology that goes along with that. We did make sure to really, again, without the VC1, we made sure to really concentrate on the VC3 in this situation and kind of really make sure that we didn't have that many holes. There may be something that's not exactly accurate, but it's as close as we could get, with all of our time and effort put towards it. I think in terms of consolidating parcels, this one right here is the most difficult. This has 3 owners. I believe, Carolyn.
Which one are we talking?
This one right in front with the Citizens Bank, Bank of America, and then the little Starbucks. I think that's the most complicated.
Bank of America owns its own building.
Mm-hmm.
The property at 303 Walnut Street has 4 listed, but a master deed. 2 of the 4 listed are the same, and one other. So it looks like it's just a master deed. It's just at most 4 owners, and it's that's just a matter of property assembly.
Yeah, but everything else is kind of, we carefully went through the records to see how we could assemble these parcels, and it's not out of the ordinary to think that this would happen. I think also this is another one that is a speculative one. Star Market, if they may not want to sell or they may not be interested, but we did go over it with Councilor Wright to make sure that our assumptions. I know she's very well versed in what's going on, and she knows zoning inside and out, and we kind of trusted her to look at it, look at our assumptions, look at our suppositions, and make sure we were at a mark. And she, she came back with a couple of suggestions, and we, and told us, she's the one who mentioned about the VC1 and how much space there was. So it's.
And can I clarify about the Star Market parking lot?
Sure.
Somebody put into the chat, and I apologize, I can't keep going back and forth between the chat and the people and the this, but I did want to respond to that one, and I did in the chat. But what we've done here is, because the Star Market parking lot area, Star Market parcel is 90,000 square feet as a whole. The way that would be addressed would be a very simple two-step real estate transaction that really happens all the time, which is you subdivide the parcel. And what you see here, you see these two cars here. This is the portion of the, you can't use my cursor, sorry.
Here.
This is the portion of the Star Market parking lot about which you would stop your subdivision. You would parcel off under 30,000 square feet of the, somebody just says it looks like it covers more than half the lot. It does not. It covers about the area. Whoops, go to the right, go back to the aerial view. One more, I think. One more.
I was trying, it's buried behind a whole bunch. There we go.
There it is. There it is. So what you're seeing is about 1/3 of the 90,000 square foot lot, which would get subdivided off. That portion would be sold to a developer, because obviously Star Market's in the grocery business. And then the developer would be allowed to proceed by right without needing a 25-foot strip alley in between two buildings. That would be a by right construction once that 1/3 of the 90,000 square foot lot is parceled off in a subdivision. Again, I was a lawyer for only 42 years. Let me tell you, subdividing parcels isn't that hard. And you would, in your deal, you would arrange to have parking rights for your customers. Frankly, a lot of the parking that takes place on the Star Market parking lot isn't their customers anyway. I park there when I go to the bank. But as I suspect we all do, but that would be a compliant by right proposition.
So what I'd love to know when you send this all to us and the planning department is, what in particular do you object to? What are your biggest issues here? Is it if the buildings were 2 stories lower, it would be better, or if they were just your issues. This is a picture, but what is it that you would like to see different, and what do you propose as a change? That would be helpful.
Very, very well stated. Our proposition at the moment is, because there was 0 3D imaging and the refusal or failure to produce it, and the promise that it would not be produced, although we now understand that in response to community requests for some imaging, there will be some sketch drawings of selected areas by UTIL, hopefully better than the one that was used in the library exhibit. But our quest here was to simply image and show what is currently proposed. I hope the proposals moderate, but anyway, I'm sorry to take too much time. I know that you wanted to move along to other people.
May I just make one more request, and that is that I know that we've had extremely fruitful discussions with Ward 1, for example, where they actually said, if you do this over here and that over there and this over here, we would like it much better. And if you could manage to come up with those kinds of requests and have conversation with us about that, that would be extremely helpful.
Thank you. Peter Bruce, you have 2 minutes.
Yes, Susan, I'd like us to stick to the Washington Street Vision Plan and go back to having this particular area on Walnut Street be zoned as it was recommended in the vision plan. Keep it at what they called low heights, which means no more than 4 stories. That would disincentivize a lot of this overly large development. So stick to the Washington Street Vision Plan. In fact, I'd like to know if you will promise to do that for us, to advocate for that. Low heights, 4 stories, no more. And as for the VC1 areas, they go too far down. As Alan Schlesinger, the real estate lawyer, said, don't let them go down as far as they are so far on Madison Court, Washington Park, and others. As for Trio being a benefit, well, if you like 2-bedroom apartments with a median rent of $5,100, people need $200,000 to pay for that. That's $75,000 more than our median income. You're gentrifying this place like crazy. Who are you welcoming? The Rockefellers, Lululemon? I mean, this is ridiculous. And I'd like you to commit, Susan, to advocating for what we advocated for in the Washington Street Vision Plan. And also, you know, traffic, the transit-oriented development, that's not working at Trio. Nobody used that. That's why you had to divert the funds to the to NUMO, which is just going to produce more traffic and more pollution and so forth. So the Washington Street Vision Plan said that you would monitor all these kinds of metrics, but you're not doing that. We're doing it, and it's not working. So stop trying to deceive us. Thank you.
So can I just say that I think that Tariq and myself and Emily at our meeting that we had with the planning department, I believe, Tariq, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we said that the maximum on Walnut Street should be VC2, and all three of us were in agreement on that. So we sort of agree with you a little bit, Peter.
Okay, good. Okay.
Thank you. Ellen,
Yes, Susan, correct.
sorry. Speak. I'm sorry, I cut you off. You were just agreeing?
No, I hope
No,
that's-
I cut Tariq off. I interrupted him. I'm sorry.
No, I'm all set. Good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Peter. Ellen, it's your turn. 2 minutes,
Oh,
please.
Thank you. I wanted to respond to something Susan said, which is that the opposition to Trio, you know, your description of this made it sound like Trio and Austin Street have done all this to revitalize Newtonville, and there was a lot of opposition to it, and now we've seen the wonderful outcome. I think as someone who opposed elements of Trio, it's a mischaracterization of what happened here, as you well know, which is that the concern was for the scale and massing of Trio. At least the group of neighbors that I was involved with, we met often with you, Susan, you'll recall that the concern was the scale and massing, not the existence of it at all. I think that most people accepted the fact that Robert Korff had bought the property, was going to develop it. So that's one point. The other thing is, I'm wondering whether, Jennifer, you could go back to the northern Newtonville spot that shows the corner of Walnut and Foster Street as it would be built up. Can you go to that slide? That would be very helpful.
We have a lot of slides here. We got to back it up.
I know it came sort of in the earlier part of this, but I have a concern about that prior to the shadow studies, I
Yeah.
believe.
Hold on. We're almost there.
Okay, thank
yeah.
you very much. Okay, this is the potential view. Okay, so let me see if I can get oriented here to where we're looking. All right.
Here.
Okay, so if you could use your cursor, because you're sharing your screen, right behind Trio and show that black line on Foster Street. I
Is this
don't
Foster?
quite, yes, I don't quite get this projection because first of all, as I pointed out at the meeting the other night, all of these residences are in the Newtonville Local Historic District. None of them can be developed in that manner under the existing zoning ordinance. And I'm looking at this block building on the corner of Walnut and Foster, which is Sally Clark's house. And it is very curious to me that somehow.
And we look forward to seeing you again.
30 seconds.
Sorry.
Have a great rest of your night here in Kelowna, or wherever your travels may take you.
Sorry, hold on. You get an extra couple seconds because I can't.
I'm just trying to ask a question here.
Sure, yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Okay, so the thing is here, you know, behind, this is over here on the north side of Foster Street in the corner of Walnut, across from the big apartment building. That, yes, that's Sally Clark's house. That's a Victorian house. And then next to it is another, the former Clark House, I should say. She no longer owns it. And that also is in the Newtonville Historic District, but for some reason, the planning department has jerry-picked this to be VC2. You know, it's got a couple of apartments in it right now. But this is the sort of thing that is, to me, so objectionable
Excuse
to go
me,
into these
you've been given-
residential neighborhoods.
you have been given an extra minute.
Okay, all right. It's
I'll let
impossible
Jennifer
to, it's
I'll let Jennifer
impossible to
defer.
have any kind of discussion about this, but thank you for your time.
We'll come
Thank
back
you.
again. Come back
Yeah,
again.
Ellen, I agree with you. I was just driving down Lowell this morning, taking my daughter back up from hockey, and I happened to notice these are all really beautiful buildings, all of this on this side. And you're right. I don't know why this has been tailored this way. And I know at that meeting that we went to, they explained to you, I believe, that it's in the historic district, so it would never happen.
Well,
It-
theoretically, but if the
Yeah.
commission's composition changed,
Yep.
that could change too.
No, and I,
So-
if it's going to be historic, you should keep it historic. It shouldn't even be in this VC2.
Correct. That's my position.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm agreeing with you. Kathleen, you have a comment or question for 2 minutes?
Yes, I do. First, I'd like to say that I would prefer that there not be a back and forth and that residents just be allowed to say what they want to say without refutation by city councilors or anyone else. I do want to say that it's not exactly accurate about Austin Street. The primary objection to the Austin Street development was the giveaway of public property to someone who's politically connected at a bargain price. That was the primary objective. And there were many people who thought there were better uses of that space than giving it to a property speculator. I look at this and I think, who in Newton, which residents, certainly not the residents of Ward 2 or any of the other places that are proposed for upzoning, who asked for this? We didn't ask for this. We elect a mayor and a city council to represent us and look after our interests and help us. And instead, they're trying to enact upzoning that will displace us, that will literally force us out of our homes, force small businesses out. Who asked for this? We never asked for this. I would just like to recommend to everyone listening to this that you pay attention to which city councilors vote yes on this and make sure you vote them out of office, because these people are not representing us. They are representing very well-heeled developers. This is a gift to developers. This isn't about affordable housing. It isn't about the planet. It isn't about social justice. It's about making some very wealthy people even more wealthy. They look at Newton and they just see a place where they can make money, and we're in the way. Don't fall for this and pay attention to the people who are pushing this. It's not for us. It's for their friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Anne, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm just trying to get myself unmuted and on video. Can you see me and hear me, I guess?
We can hear you, but you're a black box.
Oh, I know why. I have my special tool there. Thank you.
Now we can see you.
All
Go
right, I
right
live
ahead.
on 33 Madison Avenue. I have been involved in all of this zoning and upscaling and development for years. I've been here for over 20 years. I get very upset when people say you only have 2 minutes to speak. It used to be 3 minutes when I first moved to Newton. We had public comment. Now it's 2 minutes. I don't know why. I've been asking for years why that is. I think people like me and other residents should have 4 to 5 minutes. I don't feel that that's appropriate, but that's another time, another discussion. I agree that Newtonville has gotten much more vibrant again because COVID is waning, but that doesn't mean we're out of the woods. It's because the high schoolers are back. The parents are coming back out. The people have new places to go to. The Newtonville Area Council made this nice place happen. It wasn't because of Trio and Austin Street. I have to now drive to CVS when I want to go there, and that creates more traffic and problems. I loved you being able to walk to my CVS. Anyway, that's no big deal. This is not something I want for my community. I would like more affordable housing. I would like townhomes people could buy at lower rates so we could have people of color and people who are poor and people who are homeless and people who don't live in Newton move to Newton. I am tired of giving out checks to developers so that they can have all of these beautiful, wonderful buildings. Yes, we have to take part in helping people find housing, but this is not the way to do it. I right now am living on Madison Avenue. A house across the street from me is a 2-family, was sold to a developer. The people who are living there now are seniors who are on fixed incomes and are getting evicted. They have no choice and they have no place to go to. It's going to be a tear down. Why don't we do something about that? That's happening all over the place. That was an affordable apartment and they're beautiful neighbors. I love them. I will miss them. And I think if the tear downs look like anything that's on Harvard Street, that's right down the street from me, there's 2 new developments, redeveloped houses. They're ugly. They're disgusting. They don't have any quality. They look black and white and they're ugly. And I don't know and if that's going to go across the street for me, I'm going to be very upset. So these, you're not listening to the residents. Every single resident in Newton should have a mailing put in their bills, property tax bills, water bills, other bills, or not. If they don't have those, send a notice out to all the residents of Newton.
2 minutes.
To know that this is what's going on. There's no newspaper here now, so nobody knows what's going on anymore. We have to be more proactive. Thank you. And I'm just disgusted.
And
Thank you, Ann.
I've sent you a message in the group.
Okay, do we have any other comments or questions about the presentation or what you've seen tonight?
I think Pat Irwin had a question.
Oh, yeah. Pat, do you have a question? I don't know where Pat is. Can you find Pat?
I'm right here. Yeah, no, I don't.
Yep.
I don't.
You don't have a question. Okay,
No, sorry.
thank you.
Jennifer,
Kathleen,
would you consider leaving the presentation up so if people have questions,
sure.
we can go back and
I
forth?
was just trying to find people.
No, I know. Thank you.
No worries.
And there was a question about who was the person who created this presentation for us. Did we explain who that was?
Yeah, I'm looking up, Selkirk is the name of the company.
Can you put that information in the chat? Thank you.
Well, it will go forward when,
Okay.
but the company's name is Selkirk.
Lisa Monahan, you have a question or comment? You're on mute.
Yeah, no, I had asked who the urban planning firm was and what the software was. I'm curious that planning software couldn't handle 4.5-story buildings. I'd just be curious about that.
It wasn't the height, it was the width of the building. It couldn't fill in the space. Is that correct, Carolyn?
Yeah, they couldn't do the plot by lot. It's called Modeler, and it's used also with SketchUp. Modeler used with SketchUp and Google Earth Pro and GIS data. And its limitation was filling in as much density per parcel. And we also had a time constraint and an economic constraint. We don't have limitless resources to rerun it. So we decided that we would just spend as much money as we could afford. I think this is a planning department responsibility, not grassroots imaging.
Mm-hmm. I was just wondering what.
No, I'm just telling you why we did what we did. I'm not trying to be confrontational about it. I'm just saying that's the limitation of.
I was also just a comment. The VC1 areas show all of the existing structures being torn down and replaced with almost, a cookie cutter block kind of building. And I think that I would imagine that residents of Newtonville, residents all over the city are really interested in preserving as much of the historic building fabric that we have and promoting additions and adaptive reuse of buildings. I think that the image here is
30 seconds.
misleading in that it shows that it would be, all demoed and replaced. And I don't think that is the way that it would happen.
Well, I think our intention was to just say could be done. This is the potential of everything. Not that it was all going to be done, but it could possibly be done. There's nothing to stop it. And once this goes through.
I know, but if you're looking for a realistic model of what might happen, it just will never happen that way.
Well, I used to serve on the Newtonville Historic Commission, and we literally had multiple days of tear downs multiple times. It just never stopped. I mean, we were there till like 12 o'clock at night going through. It was all tear down. So I think residents are really interested in preserving, but developers are not. They get more money out of tearing something down. So just if you want proof of that, you can go on the Historic Commission and look at the notes.
Can I just say, short of the Historic Commission, my house by the developer who built my house, there are 5 of them in Newton. He built it. He found it how he knew how to build them over and over again. And there are 3 in a row on Commonwealth Avenue. Mine's the only one over here. There's another one over up Commonwealth Avenue. So developers build over and over again because it's more economically attractive. There are 5 of my houses in town.
Okay, thank you. Kathy Pillsbury, you have a comment or question?
Yeah, thanks for doing the presentation. It was interesting. I've been kind of trying to work on images too, so that's why I've been curious about it. I guess I want to respond to a couple of points. Right now, that Newton is gentrifying because so many people want to live here and because we don't have enough homes. And it's not.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Kathy, could you speak up? It's really hard to hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me better now?
Yes, better, thank you.
Other people need to mute, please.
It's the headphones, sorry.
Oh.
You're all set.
Okay. There's so many things to say. Well, I want to also say, based on I've been looking at whether Newtonville is a transit-oriented area. So I went and looked at the data, the census gathers about how people get to work. And there is actually a higher percentage of people in Newtonville who use transit compared to many other parts of Newton. So it actually is working out to be a transit-oriented area in Newton. And I also was struck when you talk about how walkable Newton is and how Newtonville is and how vibrant it is. And to me, those are exactly the reasons why we need to allow more people to live near Newtonville, because then they can walk and they can get out of their cars and they can walk to get many of their needs met. They can take the commuter rail, they can take the express bus. That's a lot of people take the express bus from there. So I agree. I agree that more should get built near the Green Line because that is more frequent. But I think there also should be some around the commuter rail. But I also agree that there can definitely be tweaks to what's been presented now. I think VC1 is definitely not, but there's a lot done in Newtonville, which I didn't think made sense compared to other parts of the city. So and also I finally want to say, I heard a number of times people think that like people who are for the zoning process are somehow kind of like a dupe for developers, like all we're going to do is support developers, but that's not true at all. I mean, I've done a lot of my work has been in climate change, and that's the main reason I'm doing this work. It's because we need to get people out of cars and be able to live in places like Newtonville or places near the Green Line or the commuter rail. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathleen, you have 2 minutes.
Yes, I'm really struck by the numbers of people who are challenging the work that the Newtonville Area Council has commissioned to have done, rather than asking the question, why does our planning department, with its huge budget and the hundreds of thousands of dollars that is spent on consultants, why has our planning department been unable to produce these kinds of renderings? That's the real question you should be asking. What is being done with our taxpayer money? it looks to me like most of the renderings and images and maps that they produce are about trying to convince people that this is somehow inevitable. It's an outrage. It's just an outrage. And I think it's lovely that some people think that somehow through trickle-down economics, this kind of property speculation enabling development is going to miraculously lead to somehow more deserving people living in this housing, which is mostly not affordable. It's mostly highly expensive. But they seem to ignore the fact that there are already people who live in Newton who are going to be displaced. But I guess those of us who already live in Newton don't matter. That seems to be the working assumption. This is an outrage. And again, I urge everyone here to pay attention to which city councilors are supporting it and to make sure you vote against them next chance you get. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathleen. Simon, you have 2 minutes.
Well, I think Kathleen just stole my thunder. But anyhow, Taffy Pillsbury, you just mentioned about some statistics for people in Newtonville and commuting habits. One would hope you'd be willing to share that data with everybody else too, so everybody else can have a look at that. I mean, are you willing? And secondly, this is for President Albright. I mean, it's appalling that Newtonville Area Council should have to pay for this to happen. Will you commit to doing similar imagery for the rest of the villages that were affected by this zoning redesign? And I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
You are all behaving so well.
I'm being good.
Scott, you have another comment or question? 2 minutes?
Yes, thank you. I joined late, but I know that I've noticed these buildings have been placed here, and I'm curious about the assumptions because, for instance, the building in the foreground, not the one on Star Market, but the one where Starbucks is and where Bank of America is, that's actually 3 different parcels, and I understood that the buildings would each have at least a 10-foot setback. So that would I thought would have been 3 buildings, for instance, and then across the street next to the Masonic Temple building, that too, there's 2 different owners there, so that would be 2 buildings. So I'm just wondering if there were some assumptions made about this, and obviously there are no residents on these blocks, so there would be no displacement. I do own 28 Austin Street. Of course, I guess all things being equal, don't want any more competition, so I'd be opposed to it, but I think that more housing is probably a good thing in Newton generally. So I'm curious about the accuracy of these renderings. Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, I was going to say.
So there's two, looking at the first building we inserted, there are 2 owners involved there. So parcel assembly is not overwhelmingly hard. I concern myself with business displacement, particularly because some of these family-run, family-owned businesses bring diversity to our community, such as the Thai restaurant, which is family-run, family-owned. And you asked a question about the parcel where Jennifer is now.
Yes, that's 3 different. Those are 3 different owners. For instance, well, I would just tell you that, the Cohen's property, which is where CVS used to be in Yoga Down Under, they have a proposal that they've already floated to the city council, I believe, which doesn't include the parcel next to it. So that might be that already might be 2 buildings. And then of course we did address that earlier in the meeting, Scott. I think you just missed it. Yeah, so I'm sorry, but you're showing it as 1 building. Right, we're showing what is the potential. We're showing what parcel assembly could be. Right, it could be assembled. It could be assembled by the Cohens, or it could be assembled by somebody the Cohens sell out to. And then having carried that building now for more than a year. Right, and with regard to business displacement, I would say that any owner has to respect the lease obligations they have in those buildings. And what we've seen so far is that there hasn't been very many issues with business displacement. Frankly, it's hard to get retail tenants on the first floors of these buildings. Right, and as we said earlier, I think you missed that the techniques that are frequently used, and I'm sure you're familiar with it, although the
parcels you built on did not have that consideration, is you buy out the lease. That's what my clients did during my 40 years of practice. You buy out the lease.
But then they would be reimbursed for their business.
They would still be, they would still be displaced, as Bill Camera was.
Financially compensated, so.
I think,
That's fine.
Martina, you had a response to that from the person you spoke with. Is that correct?
Say again, Jennifer.
I'm
About-
saying you have a response with the Great Harvest, their response to redevelopment.
Yes, absolutely. Well, as I said, I spoke to several of the businesses as a part of this project, and particularly Great Harvest. The issue is that they would have to close down. They couldn't relocate, as did Newtonville Camera, and probably not be given the option. They would go out of business. And that was true of several of the businesses I spoke to. And I'd like to make the point that Artitude.
Is the point to, I'm sorry. is the
Excuse
point
me,
to-
Scott, she's speaking.
Sorry, I
We
just
were
asked.
respectful for you. Thank
Sure,
you.
thanks.
Artitudes in West Newton just went out of business. It was an original store, locally owned, a really marvelous destination, but they knew that they couldn't stay in business given what was coming and the removal of parking places and the reorganization of the traffic. That's a good example of an original store, part of what should have been a destination store. It's gone out of business. Thank you, Jennifer.
Wasn't forced out of business. So, I mean, there's a life of business.
Mr. Oren, please watch the recording.
I'm just responding. She answered my question. I'm just trying to say that businesses, we can't enforce them to stay in business. They go out of business all the time, and we can't force our districts to always stay the same forever. There'll be a life and a life cycle. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter Bruce, you have a question or comment? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'd just like to reply to Kathy Pillsbury. She did a map of transit usage in Newton, and actually people that live around the Green Line are twice as likely to use that as people who use the commuter rail are likely to use it. That's on her own map by her own data. It is true, a lot of people commute around here, and that's a good thing. We have a lot of renters and so forth. But at Trio, they set aside $300,000, Trio did, Robert Korf did, for the city to subsidize free rail passes for people. And after 2 years, only 1% of those passes were used. So people just weren't using the transit. It's true that Trio has a lot of empty nesters. It's mostly empty nesters and a lot of retired people. It's a good place for older people and other people to live. It provided needed housing perhaps, but it didn't have to be near transit. And all the benefits that the Green Lobby thought that were going to come out of it didn't happen. I wish they would, but if we're going to have real transit-oriented development, genuine TOD, let's put it on the Green Line where it belongs. Let's maybe put it on some golf courses over in Waban or in Auburndale. And instead of TOD, I think it should be TOAD. These are TOADs. If it's transit-oriented assumed development, it's a TOAD, not a TOD. We need TODs. Thanks.
Nice job.
Jennifer, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Ellen. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make a brief point here. I guess this is an occupational hazard that, speaking of things changing over time, Newtonville has been a transit-oriented community since the 19th century, talking about 150 years of history in which this whole community, at least in northern Newtonville, was built around the railroad and then around the streetcar railway lines, and then eventually the buses, the turnpike, etc. So this is not new. The question is, who's going to live here in this transit-oriented community? And I think the points that Kathleen was making about gentrification and that Peter made on what upzoning is doing to rents in the area is extremely important. We're destroying some affordable housing when we tear down some of these older structures, which presumably could be rehabbed and retrofitted to create giant new developments with outsized rents. Finally, the planning department produced all of this whole plan. I think it's 80 pages or so, and never mention in those 80 pages that there's a local historic district in northern Newtonville. It doesn't show on any of the maps. That to me is unconscionable. That, I mean, that is a gross dereliction of duty on their part. And if consultants were hired and the city paid money for that, that is just an incredible oversight. I mean, you know, like I'm a professor, I'd give someone an F for that and tell them to do it over again.
Yeah.
Peter, please mute while you're waiting. Jennifer, you muted.
Sorry, I'm muted again. Mary Lee. Thank you, Ellen. Mary Lee, you have 2 minutes.
Thanks, Jennifer. I don't need 2 minutes. I just want to respond to Scott Oren's comments about what sounded like a fairly flippant disregard for businesses that would be displaced. He commented that no residents would be displaced, so why do we care? Well, businesses will be displaced, and yes, they may get compensated in some way, but the community loses when businesses get displaced. We don't get compensated. We like the community feel of our village centers and the small businesses. So I just found that comment a bit tone deaf. And I also would encourage him to show up on time so we don't have to recover issues that have already been addressed. He can watch the video. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lee. President Albright, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Jennifer. 2 comments. One is part of the reason why rents are so high, probably the primary reason why rents are so high, is because we are 200,000 some odd units of housing shy in our area. This is why Governor Baker put such an emphasis on housing, and this is why in Governor Healy's first address, she made an emphasis on housing. So I think we have to recognize that until supply comes up, we will have high prices, and we need that supply to happen. The second thing is about the transit, and I'm asking for your help. You know, the MBTA is in the process of designing the 3 stations along the Worcester line, and the state has put up $85 million, which is half of the cost of the redesign. They've put through a bond bill. And if you could work with us in writing to the right people, and we can talk about who that is, we need to find the other 85 million, either from the state or from the federal government. But MBTA has to help us with that request. So in order to make this transit really, really work well, we need your help. That's my request. Jennifer, you're muted.
Oh, Carolyn, did you have a follow-up?
I did, and I'm too stupid to be able to find my electronic hand raise. Somebody will have to give me a tutorial on that. I'm sorry. But it's something you just said, Councilor Albright, reminded me when you were talking about the trickle-down housing effect, that, and pardon the pun, but I don't think anybody studied the infrastructure here or updated the comprehensive plan since 2011, which said that if we had a 15% increase in population from 2011, we could handle that. But beyond that, our city's services would start to suffer. And I'm not sure that we have contemplated and studied and assessed any of the infrastructure issues, including stormwater capacity, or sewer capacity for what's being upzoned here. And if it's all being done by right, yes, there will be the I&I payments, but I have a sneaking suspicion that a lot of this is going to fall on residents who are going to see tax increases to pay for infrastructure issues. We certainly had infrastructure issues when the Walnut Street improvements were done and they were addressed. It seems to me that upzoning like this is going to put a real taxing, pardon the pun, pressure on our infrastructure that we're going to have to pay for. Just a thought.
Thank you. Diane, you have a question or comment?
Yes, I'm having trouble getting there. Going back to what President Albright said, I question the concept of that we're short housing, therefore rents are high, because when you look at the rents of buildings that other than Trio or Austin Street, some of these newer ones, the rents are much lower throughout Newton. And if you look at what used to be the Caroon building, the rents in there were far lower than the current rents are. And if anything, there was more demand because there was fewer apartments available at that time. So I don't buy this concept that building all these buildings are going to lower rent. They seem to be increasing the rents.
Thank you, Diane. We're joined by Councilor Crossley. You have a question or comment? You have 2 minutes. Oh, you disappeared. Oh, there you are.
I'm trying to find my electronics on my phone. Am I there?
Yes, you are. We can see you.
All right, thank you. Just a couple things. I'll be pointed. There's so much to talk about here. And I'll first say, I really appreciate that Newtonville is trying to understand where we're going with the zoning and the effort you've put into it. We may be moving more slowly on illustrations than you are, but that's because we don't have the product yet that we want to illustrate. We are committed to having these illustrations. I understand from UTL and staff by February 13th, when we will begin to show what revisions to the draft ordinance can look like. And then we're going to have the revisions in March to the text and the maps. So it's a process. And I appreciate that folks really want to see what this could look like, but please be patient. It's a complex puzzle. Infrastructure. Folks always worry about infrastructure and whether or not our city can provide services. And then people mention water and sewer. That happens to be my wheelhouse. And I had a lot to do with the strategic plan that is in its 9th year, going on 10, of implementation since 2011, FY 2012, fully funded. And, I can tell you that our sewer system and our stormwater system can handle the capacity of the development we're proposing with village centers is about 2% of our land area. That's not going to be a problem. Do we always have to watch it? Yes, we do. But we are increasing the capacity in our system by rehabilitating it steadily and aggressively. So that to me is not an issue. Transportation is an issue. And I think Councilor Albright, President Albright has addressed this. This is going to require an intense, continuous and persistent effort on the part of the mayor and the council, and we're all on it. We all agree with you. These stations have simply got to be made accessible, and the transit opportunities have to be made continuous and more regular. it's essential to the health of our community and to the health of the entire commuter line, as a matter of fact, which is the argument. So we have an administration and state government right now who's going to be listening to us. That's a good thing. The $85 million that our state legislature did put into a bond bill has got to be approved as cash. It in order to, and that's where the persistence and the pressure has to be put, because our federal government, who could give the balance of it to us, it sees that, and we're competing with other communities for other important transportation projects. So all of these things are going on simultaneously. The housing crisis is real. Supply shortages are real. The supply and demand formula of economics.
We're past 2.5 minutes. We're past 2.5 minutes, which is what we extended to. I'm gonna let Jennifer decide, because I'm not the boss.
If you can just wrap it up.
Yeah, okay. I didn't realize there was a time limit, but thank you for all of this. And I hope you'll be patient and listen. We really are wanting to work with you and make this something that all of us can be proud of as a way of investing in our city's future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne, you have another comment or question?
Yeah, my question is, how can we get a referendum going to ask the residents of Newton if this is what we want? Because that is the main question. Yes, we have a vision plan. We have a commitment to more housing. I agree with that. But is this the real way that the residents of Newton want it to be done? I think we need more input. As I said before, we are not getting to all the people in this city. The other question I have is, can the planning department exempt the historic village areas from being on this plan? That should be an easy thing to do. I don't understand why they can't just white it out. That's just something that should be automatic, a given. The other thing is, what is the, can one of the counselors or someone explain, how is the MBTA housing plan working with or not with this particular zoning change plan? And why aren't we just going with the MBTA program and using that as our plan for changing our zoning? Can someone answer that question? Thank you.
I don't know which counselor wants to take that.
Do you want me to help with that?
She asked a counselor, so I don't know which
someone who is versed, who knows about it and has the facts.
So this is
I can do that.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So the MBTA communities law came along a year after we started our village center rezoning project. To be clear, we started our village center rezoning project for the sake of our villages, which, by the way, require more feet on the street in order to stabilize our local economies, which are withering across the city. So that's one project. And yes, it dovetails with the MBTA communities law, which requires us to enable, not to build, but to enable a certain number of housing units within a half a mile of public transit. In Newton, 90% of it has to be within a half a mile of public transit, for a total of 8,330 units citywide, which we need to enable or allow by right within our zoning. Doesn't mean they get built or will be built, and it can overlap with existing properties that are already doing that or more. So it's a complex puzzle. We will not satisfy the MBTA communities law entirely by the zoning we're proposing in our village centers, because it is not dense enough to completely satisfy MBTA communities. For example, Newtonville and other villages which are proximate to public transit would have to be more densely developed than what we're proposing in order to by themselves satisfy MBTA communities. So we're going to have to look along other corridors along where other transit stops are that are not in village centers, like in Chestnut Hill and near the Woodland T stop, for example, which are questions that some of you have asked. We're going there next because we're doing it simultaneously from now forward, solving the MBTA communities puzzle, but doing for our villages what we believe is the right mix of uses, enabling the right mix of uses to keep them healthy and strong and environmentally stable.
10 seconds, unless I missed something.
No, no.
I'm done.
Looks like you're
I
back.
I don't understand what the we is. We decided, we have decided this. We have
So
come
we
up with
are-
this plan. But
we are-
there's no we in this because it's the counselors and it is an economic issue, yes, but it's a housing issue. And it's also an infrastructure issue. And it's also an equity issue. And that's what I don't, I just think that we
I
need
need
to-
clarification on how long this is going to go because two people.
Okay,
looked up at 2.5.
I just want that, I want to know why we can't have a referendum on this.
And I can answer that question for you.
Councilor Luke?
You can, the only way how we can get a referendum is the city council first, like with the Northland development, has to pass it first. Then within 20 days after them passing it, you have to, one or a group of people, wouldn't be one person, has to collect signatures, 5% of the registered voters. In Newton, there's approximately 60,000 registered voters, and you need to collect 5% of them and turn them into the clerk's office within 20 days. The answer to your other question is, can the planning department remove the historic district from the village center zoning? The answer to that question is yes. That was the very first thing I said to them about the zoning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
May I add to the question about who is we? So I don't know why this needs to be said, but we are a representative democracy. That means you elect people to represent you.
We weren't called on.
City Hall. Well, you asked a question. I'm assuming you were asking it to one of your counselors. Would you like to proceed or not?
No.
Okay.
So I'm just going to tell you guys, everyone going back and forth is making it very difficult to keep track. So can we let the people speak and then we'll respond? Is that okay, Jennifer?
Yeah, I mean, we have 5 more people right now.
Right. So I'm just telling everyone that going back and forth, I'm going to lose I can't keep track.
I know. It's hard when we
It
ask.
is hard. And we're just doing our best. That's all.
Yeah, we're trying not to make this run until 12 o'clock tonight.
That's all. Thank you, Jennifer.
No problem. Martina, you have a comment or question?
I wanted to mention that the MBTA Communities Act does not make any allowances for commercial. It doesn't provide for that, and everything is by right. And I think we ought to understand that that's the case. So that is problematic. The other thing that I wanted to mention, as Councillor Crosley less well knows, the $85 million has been earmarked as a possibility for bonding in the legislature, but it has not yet been bonded. There's a lot of expectation that that will happen in the new administration, but by no means is that fait accompli. I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Martina. Mary Lee?
Yes, I just want to respond to Councillor Crosley's appeal that people be patient when it comes to the city developing contextual images, 3D models, whatever it might be. Because as somebody who participated in the vision plan or the visioning kit in 2021, and as one of the community outreach folks this year, we begged for 3D models, contextual images, and we were told no. There's no money, there's no plan to do that. It was only after organizations like the Newtonville Area Council and others decided that they would fund it themselves and do it, that all of a sudden the city is going to produce what we were asking for. Although I doubt it will be that, but it's disingenuous to ask us to be patient. We've been more than patient. The only other thing I want to comment on is, as somebody who was cut off in a public venue where my comments were clarified, I think that the back and forth is we should just let people have their say. I don't think our city councilors should be able to pipe in and or address everything we say. And I think with all due respect, Councilor Crossley has had more than enough time to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lee. Susan, you want to have 2 more minutes and then we'll move on to the last speaker and go?
Yep, really, I assume you mean me, right, Jennifer? Yes?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, President Albright.
No, that's good.
Sorry about that.
Mary Lee, I just want to say that I think I agree with you. I agreed with you that night. I was surprised that you were cut off, but you were not cut off by Councilor Crossley. You were cut off by staff. And I think that staff person has been spoken to, that it's not up to that staff member to make those kinds of decisions. So just wanted to say that for your benefit.
So Susan, I appreciate your comment on that. And that was my take as well. And I appreciate you clarifying that. And the staff is representative of the council. So I'm glad that staff person was spoken to.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes. 2 things really quickly. Newton used to be, back in the day when I grew up here, we used to be 92,000, and we haven't gotten back to that yet. We may someday get back to that. But the infrastructure and with the water sewer work and stormwater work that Councilor Crossley mentioned, we should be able to handle this infrastructure. And I don't know that rents are going to come down. I read a lot of the economics of increasing the housing. We may be able to stabilize the rents by creating more housing. I don't know if it's going to be stabilized, come down. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I know that they will keep going up if we don't increase the supply. That's the economics of the situation. Thanks.
Thank you. Annie, would you like to speak? You're a new speaker. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. And I really don't deserve to have the last word on this, so I hope somebody else is up after me. I live on Court Street, and I've spoken at many meetings, so many of you know about Court Street and how that fits in Newton's economic picture. I can't speak, I don't know a lot about economics, but I can tell you where I live. Well, first of all, my household is 4 people sharing an 1864 square foot house. And that's very economic and efficient compared to one person living alone in a 3,000 plus square foot house. I'm not thinking of anybody in particular, but I know across Newton, there's a lot of housing stock that is underpopulated, very large houses that are not contributing to Newton's economy meaningfully in terms of providing housing for people who would be glad to share space or live in apartments of smaller scale. In our situation, one of my family members has a disability, cannot drive, so he can walk to the store and walk to the post office and pick up his own medications. And that's very meaningful to us to live in a community where that's possible and yet still feels like a neighborhood in a detached single family house. I don't see adding large buildings, especially with the amount of luxury housing going in, as reducing the number of cars or the number of car trips, because a lot of people don't just go into Boston and come back. They go all over. And I drive to Whole Foods, which is a block away, because carrying 3 bags of groceries, I can't carry them back by hand. There are a lot of things I want to say here, but especially I really appreciate the Newton Area Council putting together this imagery. And I want to pose the question as to, well, first of all, I just want to say, I'm sorry, I'm rambling here. There are a lot of renters on our block here on Court Street, and the rents here are very affordable. And I know that the kind of developments that are being proposed around here are not going to provide that kind of affordable rent, especially for families, sometimes.
Time's
people-
up.
Oh, sorry, with disabilities. I'll just finish my sentence.
Yeah.
And people who need to live in a house in order to get the kind of care and services that they need. And I hope that Newton will look into providing more diverse array of housing alternatives in its planning. Thank you.
Thank you. Annie, can I send you a message, please?
Okay. You sent me a message?
Yeah, chat.
In the chat. Okay, I'll look at it.
Thank you.
I don't, we need, oh, sorry, Rains.
Thank you. Scott, you have 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you.
Want to get out of here, so.
I know I won't change everybody's mind, but I would like to share some information. You know, during the pandemic, we had what economists call a natural experiment. 100,000 or so college students didn't come back to Boston that year. And Boston, the city of Boston, has about 600,000 people. And in the greater metropolitan area, we have about 1 million people. So something like 10 to 15% of the people who usually rent apartments didn't rent apartments that year. And rents actually went down by 15 to 20% that year. So we do know that supply and demand does affect housing. And I know I won't change everybody's mind, but I would say that rents can go down if there's more supply. So thank you.
Thank you.
Annie, we need your last name, please, for the records, for the attendance.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did say it. Oh, I must have been muted. Rains, Annie Rains.
How do you spell that?
Raines.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Raina, you have 2 minutes. Oh, you're muted.
No, I'm sorry that I wasn't here to see your, presentation. So I'm hopeful that I'll get to see it in a later date. But, I just sort of have to remind everybody how this whole process started, where we were getting the framework first, nothing that was really defined. And we're only now, in the final stages of getting, even now, where we don't have all of the specifics defined. So thank you, Newtonville. I just sort of feel as if I'm looking at real renditions. We've done our own visualizations and it's, pretty informative. And I think it's important. And only now are we getting the planning department suggesting that they will provide some 3D visualizations. Why wasn't that presented 6 months ago? Or, even in the beginnings of this process? I'm just, okay, this is the way it works. But, we all spoke at the last zoning and planning committee. And, I feel as if we really need to, engage the residents in a meaningful way. We should have started with the residents and we should have started with the area councils. We need to make sure that we have the residents behind the zoning. I don't think I don't want this to be top down. I want it to be ground up. And then I also believe that we need to listen to the residents. We're the most vested party. We know our villages and we know our community best. So our opinions need to be valued and respected. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to round it out with the 2 area council members who have their hands up, and then we're going to close comments and questions so we can move on. Thank you. Aline.
Why don't you let Caroline go first?
Oh, Carolyn.
Thank you. I'm so glad I'm smart enough finally with the help of somebody back channel to find the raise hand. I wanted to respond to the comment that was made about how businesses are withering. Newtonville's Village Center is not withering. It is vibrant. As President Albright said earlier on in this discussion, Newtonville's Village Center businesses are thriving. They bounced back after COVID. They bounced back after the upset of the areas of the Walnut Street enhancements that put them under stress. We have new businesses coming in. We have businesses expanding. We don't have empty storefronts. We have mom and pop businesses that will not be able to afford higher rents and will be displaced and thereby destroyed. And with regard to the comment about being patient, I think it's been said before, just now by Raina quite eloquently, and by the speaker before that, that, you know, we've been at this for years now. We've been pretty patient. And again, only after public clamoring and grassroots efforts do we finally get the images that the planning department should have created before they started drawing lines around our homes and our businesses. And with regard to patience, I worry about being too patient now because the timeline calls for a final vote in May. Now that's slipping to June, but that's not a hell of a lot of time. So how patient are we supposed to be before it's all said and done, over with, signed, sealed, and delivered? And finally, the Newtonville Area Council represents our area. Our area is taking hit after hit and a pounding after a pounding, as is no nontum, with development and concentration on area. There are over 100 parcels in our area that have been scheduled for upzoning, not just in the historic district, which I agree should not be part of this, but we're being pounded here. And it's too much, and I don't feel that patient anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. And Elaine, you want to wrap it up?
Yes, let me set my timer. Hold on.
What?
I'm not gonna take long. First of all, again, this is so impressive. And again, I'm speaking on behalf of my personal citizen rights here, not as NAC. I'm just blown away terribly by the politics in this town since I have moved back. I was raised here. I left to raise my family because I could not afford it. Came back. I live here now. And I'm very grateful that my parents left me a home because I could not have done this otherwise. Bottom line is, when we talk about affordable, I don't know what that means. I say this story all the time because it breaks my heart. I have a very close friend who lives in Newton. She is a teacher's aide in Newton, works her tail off for your most disabled students. She does not get much money. She cannot afford to live in this town. She is on her way out because the affordable rents in the affordable buildings are not affordable for her. So I don't understand what affordable means. I really, really don't. That's number one. Number two, people have been asking about the special permits. I don't think that we've addressed it. I'd like to see if anyone has any responses about what happens when there are special permits. Still happening on top of what has been approved in the special zone, in the zoning. And then number three, Ann Duval, I appreciate so much of what you've said. I appreciate so much of what so many people have said. I am so dismayed with this town, this city. I just don't understand how our politicians are able to face us and say what they say and just not be accountable or transparent. It is just obnoxious. Done.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you for rounding it up. Again, like I said, I really appreciate all the effort that went into this exercise of realizing the vision of what has been proposed. And again, I want to send a special thank you out to Carolyn and Dana, who really took the reins and got the urban planner and really tried to make that the most accurate presentation of the zoning reform that they could. So thank you to both of you for taking that lead. Carolyn, do we have Mark? Mark wanted to come on to give a very quick presentation of kind of what he did last time, but he has revisions, so he wanted to show those to us.
Is he on a 2-minute timer?
No, he's not.
Oh, thank you very much. And we should be all so appreciative to the work that was presented. It showed from an architectural and spatial perspective that the public can see what the current proposal density can affect and what can be built out. And developers seem to have a way to do that. What I have taken is a more literal pedestrian view of what build out would be. So I'll start with our town here on Walnut Street to give more of a ground view of what the build out could be like. And I'll commence. And I think after that, if we have a few minutes, we'll just take a quick look, because there are other communities in our city that are similarly affected. So let's just take a look. Share screen. Let me just go back one image. Well, we know Walnut Street. So here's Walnut Street as is. And
Not
there's
sharing.
something we
can't see anything.
Oh, okay. Let's make sure we're sharing.
There you go.
Terrific. Okay. So here we are at Walnut Street. Now, there's something really unique and special about New England, and there's a reason why our village centers are called village centers. And I think that's something really core and key we need to recognize and try to maintain, restore, and respect. And the proposal currently, we've been finding both on the metrics and on the presentation we just seen, is out of scale to our New England community. So the proposal is for 4.5 stories. And that would just be one side. And then if we develop the other side, this is what we would feel. Now, there's been a lot of discussion to dispel whether, they're not going to build the whole building. The reason why this type of building was selected, it took a lot of effort to find typical buildings that might be built this way. Fortunately, there aren't a lot, but there are more because builders are thinking they can do this to our communities. This building is a type that demonstrates that it could be multiple buildings, and these multiple buildings can respond to particular property segments. So the concern of, this won't realistically happen because somebody owns this parcel or that parcel. This is an example of a contemporary building that would infill as in the past, but at a much higher density in segments that would respond to property ownership. As we see how out of scale it is and how disrespectful the height and proportion and density is to what we enjoy in New England as New England Village. I have a few other areas nearby, so I'll go to the one particularly that's nearby. West Newton, if we could get to it. I'll try to be quick. West Newton. Here it is. Okay. And I will get to that image. If we could move this up, we're close. Here we are. Okay, West Newton, we took a look at Elm Street. And on Elm Street, we have VC zone right here. So we'll just take a quick look. Now, what's interesting about this area in VC3 is a fascinating example of a relatively recent building that was built around 10 plus years ago. And what's interesting is it chose to be more respective of our New England village feel. I've done presentations and as an architect and urban designer have studied villages, and villages are pretty much 1, 2, and 3 stories. When we get to 4 stories, it becomes urban. Here's an example where it was more tastefully and proportionally done of 2 to 3 stories. But let's see what our proposal is proposing for West Newton. It is VC3. Well, that doesn't seem to be, well, you can judge for yourself, no need for comments. And then someone would want to develop that parcel of the 10-year-old building. And that's what we would have by the current proposed zoning. I think we have to judge for ourselves, what do we really want? Do we want that? Or do we want this? So the choice is ours. So from our studies and examination of villages throughout New England and nationally, that 1, 2, and 3 stories, 3 stories is village, 4 stories is urban. And with urban, you get all the complexities of urban and high density living. We could be wiser and respond to some examples that we see that are more appropriately done. I think this is so important. It affects so many of our communities. I would think it'd be helpful. I will just go quickly through some of the other districts. It'll just take a couple of minutes. So you just get a feel that this impact is not just Newtonville or West Newton, but all our village districts, and that will just take a moment. We just go to the beginning. And we'll just run through it quickly. Newton Center. We're looking at Langley Road near the church. You will recognize it as a VC3. So we have a very nice church that has been renovated. And the parking lot is zoned for VC3. And then we could fill in where Walgreens and the parking lot is. And then the church is not protected, as in a lot of parts of our village centers and community. We could look at Auburndale, Lexington Street. You have residential New England still built structures. This is New England scale. This is what we cherish about New England, is that quaint, smaller scale feel that still has all the trimmings and necessities that we need. But do we need this density? This is just VC2. This is 3.5 stories. And this is what we would get on Lexington Street in Auburndale. We saw West Newton, Newtonville again, no Nantum. Watertown Street, this is just zoned VC2, but that's not the scale, and we still have this residential still built multifamily. But that's not necessary. We don't need to rezone that. Further down Watertown Street, no Nantum. Again, you have residential scale structures. Is that necessary? 1, 2, 3 stories is village centers. That's appropriate. Newton Highlands. Now, Newton Highlands is unique because it does have certain areas that have a plaza in front, a little bit more breathing room, but though the street is narrow. So do we zone that VC3? Do we encourage 4-story plus structures, 4.5? Even 3 stories seems dense enough if we look at it objectively. There it is, that's plenty dense because it is a narrow street. The proportions are appropriate and at its max. But this is what we get with VC3. And it's 4.5 story. We'll take a look at the other end of the street. Again, VC3, this is 2 and 3 story village center feel. But this is what's being proposed, 4.5 story. That's just one side. Let's fill it in. And it's not filled in even further down the block. Waubun. In Waubun, we are zoned VC2. Another difficulty is these very, very to scale and intricate, detailed buildings are not protected. And so this is zoned for VC2, and this is what can happen. Here we see it as the whole block, and potentially a developer could break up the pieces. These buildings could be built in parcels, and unfortunately, that is the density that could be achieved under the current proposed zoning. 4 corners. Similarly, you have residential, stick-built, 2.5 story structures. That's reasonable for New England and for our village centers. But it's proposed VC2, which is 3.5 story. And this is the last Thompsonville at the other end of Langley Road. We start at the beginning of Langley, we'll conclude at the other end of Langley, a very cute part of a village center. We have a community center here. We have a residential structure here. It is zoned, we'll just quickly take a look at the map again for VC3. And we could continue down the block. And that's in conclusion of the visuals. We have other visuals on what's more appropriate for village centers, but this is what's really important to reflect on today. So thank you very much. All right.
Thank you very much, Mark, for giving us that. I know you've made some changes and improvements since the last time we saw it, so I think it's great to see some of those things coming back again. I think it complements, gives that street view that we don't have, street view context at the same kind of build out. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Yes, we had helpful feedback from colleagues. Doing these visuals is very complex. Some of the concerns was the street widths are not meeting what the recommendations are. We improved that, we did that, we made them all the 12 feet. We added more glazing on the first floor, but that's not the issue. The truly issue is the proportion of the buildings. We want to maintain our New England village centers. And that's precious. And to lose that with this overdensity is not really where I think our community wants to go. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So we're going to go ahead and we're going to conclude this part of the presentations and discussion on zoning. We do need to move on to some more administrative things. So thank you everyone for participating and commenting. And as alluded to by President Albright, if you have comments or questions, or you have anything you want to say about zoning and what's going on, then please reach out to them, reach out to your counselor, your ward counselor, your counselors at large, everybody, just so you can tell them how you feel, because it's hard for them to make a decision when they don't get the feedback. You know, they're people too, and they're acting, you know, on their opinions and their facts, and they do require us to get involved in order to complete the picture. So thank you. Okay, so moving on to the next part of the meeting. We're going to talk about administrative issues right now. I don't know if we want to do the election since we do have Tim. I saw him come up. I don't know if he's still here. Tim, are you here?
Yep, I'm here.
Ah, great. Okay. Thank you for joining us. I know you had a work situation. So, sorry. So let's go ahead. We have, per our bylaws, we do require that we go through our election of officers every year. So I'm going to turn it over to Martina Jackson for the first slate of president. Martina?
Yes, thank you very much. I will accept nominations for president. And just to clarify, this is an election that is only limited to the 7 members of the Newtonville Area Council. So I have nominations for president.
I don't know what the correct thing here, point of order, whatever it is that we're supposed to say. Could we possibly find out who is interested in what positions before we nominate? Would that be appropriate?
Sure.
Okay.
Fine.
So I'm just curious. I am not able to take a position right now. I'm just going to throw it out there, unless I can relinquish the current position I have. So I'm saying that. Is there anyone out there of the 7 of us that would like to take on a new position or would be willing to get on the board?
We can't do that. We have to because we have to advertise that there are vacancies and have people come before us for the 2 positions on the board.
Well, but we're just rearranging our group. What am I missing here? And if we can't do that, then we can't do that.
If I understand Eileen, she's not talking about what you're talking about. Aren't you just saying about the officers? As amongst the officers, it's a separate agenda item with regard to opening up the area council to new members. Am I right, Eileen? Am I understanding what you were saying, or am I wrong?
I'm just, see, if we nominate, okay, I'm very happy that Jen's going for presidency. That's if that's what we're doing. I do not have an agenda. I honestly do not have agenda. But this is what was troubling me, is being a new member here. I don't understand the politics, and I've talked to some people. I want to know why we can't just have a frank conversation about who might like to be what. I've been on other committees where we are able to say, hey, I don't know, just Joe Schmo, what would you be interested in doing? And then we come up with a so-called slate of offices based on who wants to do what, and not just assume that we're gonna have one slate and just vote on one slate. It's for me, it's being transparent and being open and being giving and loving and caring, blah, 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 about our positions. That's all.
Okay,
Okay, so-
that's
so
fine.
there-
I didn't misunderstand. I thought you were saying about who wants to be, but sure.
Okay, so
Well, and maybe no one wants to discuss it, and that's fine, but without having a discussion, I don't understand how we can just vote. And this was what I've said in conversations with individuals trying to understand how this works. Not that I was trying to do any voting, just to understand the rules. So having
well,
said that, what
Okay,
is the next
just to
step
clarify, for you. So we have 4 officer positions. We have president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary, which need to be voted on per year.
Okay.
We can go to the 4 people and ask whether they are interested in running again for their position.
Yeah.
Which I am interested in running again for president. I will not speak for anyone else, but they can say whether they are. And if we do have someone who does not want to run, obviously we need to fill that spot. Or if you have an idea that if you wanted to take a spot, you just say, I'm interested. So I think we should just go around and say, I can read across, and if you're interested or not interested, then we can get a sense of who would like to run. This may not be an issue, may only have 4.
Correct. No, that's right.
So, okay, so
Thank you.
I'm currently president. I would like to run again for president.
Yeah, same,
Martina?
same. I'm vice president. I would like to continue as vice president.
Okay.
Carolyn?
Secretary, I would be obliged to anyone who would take on the role so that I don't have to keep doing the minutes. It's not that I mean, I like to serve. It's been fun, but it's been done. So if anybody else, I know Martina has a lot of experience doing minutes, and I think you're kindly being our secretary pro tem for today. I mean, I'm happy to give it away. Drafted, I might serve, but I'd be happy, and I think we should have some rotation among the officers. So I'd be happy to put myself on the altar of rotation.
Okay.
Just to
Dana?
clarify, I just want to make the case, I have been secretary here. I've done that.
Well, if you wanted to do it in
Would
my
you like-
stead, I'd be eternally grateful.
Would you like to remain treasurer, or would you like to step down?
I'll remain treasurer. That's fine. Thank you.
And Aileen, would you be interested in running for any of those positions?
I think I'd like to. I don't really want to be secretary, but I think when someone wants to get off, I think that's the honorable thing for us to do, is help each other out.
Yep, we won't make Carolyn do it, doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got other members. Is anyone else interested? Because if I do secretary, I cannot do the Newtonville project.
I'd
So
be
someone
interested
else
in
is-
being secretary.
I'm sorry?
Nancy would be interested.
Oh, good.
Oh, Nancy would be? Okay.
And Tim, where's Tim? I lost him again.
No, he's right there.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Are you interested in running for anything?
Nope.
Okay. Got it. Okay,
That was
so
quick.
again, I'll turn it over to Martina. Is that clarify everything, Elaine? Are you?
Yeah, no, this is all I wanted. This is only thing I wanted. And I am so thrilled that in having this conversation, we've been able to relieve Carolyn.
Yeah.
You know, and I never knew that anyone was going to step up. And truthfully, the way my job is going right now, the way teaching is going right now, I can't possibly do much more, but I attend the meetings so I could do secretarial. But I'll tell you what, Nancy, I love you.
Can I make a motion?
Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Martina.
Thank you.
As vice chair for the next, for the next section.
Just to clarify, I'm only doing the presidential piece, then I turn it back over to the president. That's how that works. And Nancy, you have my solemn promise that I will do what I did for Carolyn, which is take attendance and send you the names. Okay, so is there a nomination for president? Carolyn.
I would like to nominate Jennifer.
I second.
Thank you very much. Is there any other nomination? Seeing none, is there a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor of Jennifer as president of the Newtonville Area Council, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Aye.
Thank you. Jennifer, it's all yours.
Thank you. We're going to open up nominations for vice president. Do I have any nominations for vice president?
I nominate Martina.
Thank you. Do we have a second? And Tim is second.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, and Aline. Okay, I would like to close. Is there anyone else who would like to be considered? Any other nominations? No? So can we close the nomination process
Yes.
for a second? Okay, Aline?
Second. Yeah.
And let's call the roll. Votes for Martina as vice president. Okay. Good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Vice president for the next year. The next is I'm calling for nominations for treasurer. Do I have
I
any?
nominate Dana.
Thank you. Do we have a second on that? Tim? Great. Is there, and Aline?
Yep.
Is there anyone else for nominations for this office? No?
I move that nominations be closed.
Thank you. Any, so we close the nomination. All in favor of Dana continuing on as treasurer? Raise your hand.
I nominate.
No. You
Whatever.
vote. Yep, no problem. Thank you. And congratulations, Dana. You are now going to be treasurer for the next year. Martina, you have a question?
No, I nominate Nancy Greenberg.
Oh, that's what I thought I was doing.
Yeah, I'm opening up nominations
Four of us.
for secretary. We have Martina nominating Nancy. Do we have a second?
Second, third,
Second.
fourth.
Carolyn's very excited.
Carolyn, do you use a template?
I'll talk with you offline. I'll be very happy to help you.
Okay. Thank
You'll
you.
need it. It's fun.
Do we have any other nominations for secretary?
I move the nominations be closed.
Okay. All in favor of Nancy becoming secretary for the group?
Aye.
Carolyn's hand is disappearing, but I know it's up. So
Right.
congratulations, Nancy. You are now our secretary for the next year. Thank you very much.
I have a list of everybody who attended city council, us, and everybody whose name I could, there were 81 of us, so.
Great. It was a
81.
good number tonight.
A new world record.
What?
For NAC or for all
Hey.
meetings?
No, I think
new
there have been
world
other meetings
record.
I've been to, and the NAC, there have been more than that. I forget what the topic was, but there's been some that have been explosive.
A new record for this year, 2023.
Yes, I agree with that one.
Thank you, Drew.
Good. The second thing I want to bring up regarding nominations and our council is that we still, as you know, have open slots, which really becomes apparent when we have situations like this and we don't have, we're kind of picking amongst the same people. And so you have, what is it? We have 9, so we have 2 open slots still. Is that correct, Martina?
Yes.
Okay. So I propose that we do what we did last year, which is going out to the public to see if we can fill those 2 slots in an election. That will require us to agree to that we're going to go out, and then we have to set some dates. So does anyone have any comments about that or any objections to going out to fill those 2 spots?
I think that's a great idea.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. And I know, Carolyn, you sent over the information from last time, but I think is it 60 days or 30 days? We have to have a meeting. We have to put out an announcement for our next meeting.
Yeah.
Announce it in the-
What the bylaws, I looked at them quickly when you should go back and look at them, but basically just for everybody's benefit, this meeting, we decide to do it. Then we set a notice out inviting applications. In that notice, we state the due date for applications. After the applications are received, we have, presumably at our next meeting, interviews with the people who would like to come on board. And then after that, we need to wait till the next meeting to take the vote on those applications. And there's a procedure the law department mapped out for just when we get to that moment. And that's reflected in a prior set of minutes that I think I forwarded to you, Jennifer, as to how that's done. And you have the guidance from the law department. So
yes,
we decided now to do it. We send out a notice. We set a deadline for applications. At the next meeting, we meet with the applicants. And at the meeting after that, we vote.
So I'm just going to assume that we can use the same materials we did going out with the last one. That wasn't the problem. We just couldn't agree on who to have in our group. We did the process, so that was a good thing.
Can we have a discussion before the interviews as to, and obviously in a meeting, just a discussion on the procedure of how we do this and the procedure of how we elect and the procedure of contacting the people. And I would like to say, since we still have 28 people here, please send in your applications. We need you.
Except you have to be in the catchment area. That's, yeah.
Okay,
So-
you're right.
So some of them can, but it's always nice to have people who show up at our meetings come.
Right.
Hard when they don't understand what we've been talking about. And obviously, if you come to our meetings, if you're interested, please stop. Sit in our group. So I will send out all the materials so that you guys can take a look. That's an administrative thing. I don't think that needs to be in an open meeting. It will go open once it gets sent out, and then we will have a timeline at that point and let everyone know. Make sure that everyone can be there.
And just to be clear, that notice is a public notice, does not inhibit any of us or anybody else from bringing it to the attention of people, inviting people to make application. There's nothing we have to remain silent about. We can certainly promulgate that notice and invite people who we've seen at these meetings before and so forth. And Elaine, if you want to have a process discussion, that's administrative in nature too, so we don't have to do that in an open meeting. We can discuss that amongst ourselves just as we're talking procedural things.
Okay. We just can't talk about the candidates. We can only talk about.
No, that's, I would never want that.
And we should have a list of the catchment area because there's an overlap beyond Ward 2 a little bit into Ward 1. So,
and Ward 3.
Yeah, Ward 3 and not all of Ward 2. So I think we should have the list is available. I'm happy to forward it.
And that's all available from the not planning department, the elections department, I believe. Because when we were elected, we had that information. We had to go out with our clipboards with that on it. So we'll have that. And like I said, this is not, we want to get more people. We want people interested. So if you do know someone, please feel free to invite them to come onto our group. So that's done. Do we need a vote on that, or is it just?
No, that's procedural.
Okay.
And I think the due date for applications is, I think, something you can set in your discretion because it's just purely procedural.
Okay. Dana, I don't know if you're putting you on the mark on this one or not, but I know we've asked for
Yeah.
you to give us a financial update, and I think we keep missing you because we keep running over time.
Yeah, yeah.
So I apologize for that. It's you've been prepared for 3 months now.
Yeah, and it keeps changing too. So, yeah, I'm good and I'll make it short. So, we currently have, $21,282 in our bank account. We paid our first installment for the renderings of $23.25 last week, and we'll pay the second installment of $27.50 next week. Our balance going forward is approximately $18,000. And last year in 2022, our net income from was $5,660. So looks like, just about, it can cover the expenses for the rendering. We're in pretty good shape. We just have to have another big village day, I think, to shore up our coffers again. Yeah. And that's it. How was that for quick?
That was great. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed. We had a great village day last year. I know that brought a lot of money in, and so I count on you guys to hit
And
it.
just, one more thing. So this is exactly why we want to have the money in the bank. So when things like this come up, we were so fortunate that we were able to, that we had the $5,000 to go ahead and get the renderings done. So yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I think it was money well spent, and thank goodness we had that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Lee?
I can't, thank you. I can't also say enough about what this presentation meant to a lot of people. And I think,
Yeah.
the reason why I raised my hand is I don't know if we have a social media presence. I'm just not aware. Do we have anything like that?
We have Facebook, and all of our stuff goes out on Facebook.
Okay, and who's monitoring or doing that?
I do that with Constant Contact, and
okay.
And then when we have like Village Day, things go out separately.
Okay. So do we have I don't want to belabor the night, but just thinking about this, maybe put it on the next agenda. Do we have a need to expand socially? Being part of the Newton Tree Conservancy, we have a new member that has come on board and has just done a bang up job. And I wonder if that would benefit us too. I don't know what that means. I'm just saying maybe we can discuss this.
Yeah, I think if we can get more people and get those 2 slots filled, like we just people to fill up. And I think social media kind of fell a little bit because it's like, we just can't.
No, I get that.
And I'd
Jen.
rather
I really,
spend
really
time or have,
right.
beautiful renderings than, I know we have to publicize them. So that'll be like another thing coming onto this after.
But if it's just something that if we want to talk about it, I'd be happy to look into it and pick the brain of this young person that knows how to do all this stuff, or else we can just pick Tariq's brain. But he's bored. He's yawning right now, so he's bored.
Wait, what am I doing?
He's checking out social media right now.
Yeah, I'm doing Twitter.
No, I was just talking about expanding our social media presence, which I know nothing about, but I'd be willing to look into finding out what there is, and what I'm hoping that Jen can put it on the agenda next month. Thank you. That's all.
Well, I have been very popular on Boston sports Twitter from time to time. I don't know how that's relevant to the goals of the NAC, but always try
Probably
something
a little
new.
off topic.
Yeah. So go Red Sox, go VC3, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Aline. Martina, do you have any question about that?
I just wanted to thank Mark, because I think seeing the graphics of the different village centers really helped to clarify what the issue is and what the impact is, and how much could be developed by right without any input from us. And I think it was an excellent presentation, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. I know it's I think it's important to see all these different visuals. They're all different. And it's like seeing it, maybe something resonates with one person over another.
Right. Yeah.
Like I am really surprised about the top down and looking at it and all the massing that's going on. But someone might be really jazzed about seeing it on the street level, and that's how they get interested in it. So
Yeah.
I think it's good to have that perspective.
My sister, who doesn't live in town, was looking at the pictures with me, and she was just dumbfounded.
Right.
Anyway, thank you again. What a great presentation. Thank you, Dana. I mean, I'm sorry, who ran the show?
Caroline and Jennifer.
Carol,
You guys did a
okay.
great job.
Caroline and Jennifer. Yeah.
Yeah, Dana was critical.
Yeah, I thought so.
In identifying the vendor and working with me on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's finish up this meeting and get the heck out of here. Okay. So we have.
Just a quick question. Does the chat get saved somewhere?
I think it does when you have the recording. I think it is saved. I hope so.
It's an option. It depends what's been paid for. So if
when we get our downloads, we get 3 different files. I believe.
Okay.
Hopefully.
So we have a nomination for an Annie Rains to apply. So if she's on here somewhere, please apply.
I think she's gone. She was one of the speakers today.
Yeah.
She left.
So
anyway,
Mark?
Yes, excuse me, Jennifer. Would it be possible after you close out the meeting and the recording that the presenters and a couple of who might want to stay on for a couple of minutes just to follow up on just a few minutes of, thanking each other and that type of thing?
Sure.
That would be great.
Yeah.
But do you want a private meeting, or you just want it off the record?
Yeah, exactly. Like after the recording, you close out your meeting and we could stay on and then say goodnight to each other, and that would be terrific.
Okay, well, before we do that, I just.
Mark? You mean be
I'm sorry?
civilized? You mean be civilized?
Yes. As opposed to, I guess extra civilized.
Well, I apologize to Rick. I had no idea he was a counselor.
Well, so can we just finish up? And then just to let you guys know too, I just copied the chat into a Word document, so we do have it in case it doesn't show up. So we have 2 sets of minutes. Carolyn's last hurrah to approve.
Yay, Carolyn.
Hopefully everyone got them. I don't know if you've had a chance to review them.
Oh, yeah.
But we have the November minutes. Does anyone have any comments or questions on the November minutes?
No. I make a motion that we
I think
accept
they're
them.
beautiful. I think you do a beautiful job.
And Nancy,
Blood, sweat, and tears went into those.
Nancy, we know that Carolyn is like very, very, very detail oriented. You don't need to do that.
It's true. It's true. I'll show you some of my minutes if they don't have.
So I take it that starting at the next meeting, I will be doing the minutes, but
You're
not.
on the hot seat, Nancy.
Okay.
See, you get a free day. You only have 11 to do.
Can I just say the reason I did them in detail, which I would not have done for any of my corporate clients when I was practicing law, was I find a lot of people can't attend the meetings. If we post them prominently, and some of our own members who've not been able to attend a meeting get a real catch up by being somewhat more detailed than simply saying, and discussion ensued, which is the usual way you do corporate minutes. So there's a harmony between what I was doing, which was backbreaking and unpleasant, but I think helpful to the public, and making them too truncated. So I burnt myself out with them. And Nancy, I'm happy to try to help, but I'm so glad I don't have to do them anymore.
I'm so happy for you.
Kathleen, do you have a comment about the minutes, or do you want us to go ahead and do that and then you have a comment?
I just have a comment that this is a public meeting and I urge you to end this public meeting. And if you want to have a private discussion to chat and thank each other, that you have you create a separate Zoom to do that. Please, this is a public meeting. Don't have private conversations on it. Thank you.
I agree. Okay, can we please go ahead and would anyone like to
I make a motion.
And I do that too. We make a tandem motion.
Okay, if someone has to be first, who wants to be first? Let's go. with-
I'll second it.
Second, right?
Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes for November?
Aye.
And then we also have December meeting minutes. Does anyone like to make a motion on those?
I make a motion, we approve it.
And who's second? Tim? All those in favor?
Aye.
And I guess Martinez and I?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. So those have been approved. They will be forwarded.
Minutes. October minutes need to be approved. I sent those earlier.
I thought we did those on,
I make a motion, we accept October's minutes.
Well, October, November, and December that fell behind. We
Yeah,
deferred them in the
that's it.
past.
Second.
the past. Tim, you second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Yeah.
One last bit of housekeeping before we go. The next meeting is scheduled for the 20, what is it? For February, it's the 23rd, and I'm not going to be here. So I don't know.
And I was gonna say, I'm
continue
not
the
gonna
meeting
be
without
here.
me.
I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna be here either. I'll be,
Yeah, it's
visiting my
school
daughter in
vacation
London,
week.
School
so
vacation, oh
that's-
yeah, let's.
Oh,
can we
Lena,
move
I'll
it?
be in Paris. We can go see each other.
We're not in school anymore. There's no reason why.
Well, I
any of
have
you
kids
should
and
be
they're
here.
free to go and do free things.
Well,
So,
if
They're
two
old enough to
people
walk
can't
on their
go,
own.
do
They're
we
old
have a
enough to walk on their own.
so I'm wondering if you want to go.
I
ahead.
would make a motion to change it to the following week.
Well, there's the 16th, which would be the week before.
Oh,
Or
okay,
week is March 2nd because February only has 28 days, unfortunately.
yeah.
Or
I
fortunately,
make a
whichever.
motion that we go to the week before.
Well, the only question I have is how's that, just figure out how that's going to play into this solicitation of applications.
Right.
And the deadline for people applying. It's just looking at it, it's okay with me if we close the, make the deadline the 9th or 10th of February, which is 2 weeks or so. And then
Is that
they can
enough?
have interviews on the 16th. That's good for me. Let me just look at this.
I think we only gave them we gave them a lot of time last time, or like 3 weeks last time, I think is what we gave them.
Yeah.
This would be 1 week, it would be 2 weeks.
They don't have to do much to apply. They just have to
No,
say,
it's just,
I'd
all it
like
is
to,
is
and
write a
here's a little about
paragraph
me.
on what you want to,
Or-
why you want to join.
Or we could do it the following week on the Tuesday, which I believe is the end. I mean, we don't absolutely have to do it on a Thursday.
That's true. I mean, we do it on the Thursday because it doesn't interfere with any of the zapper.
That's
What is-
true.
The 28th is what, Tuesday? I mean, Tuesdays are what, a city council meeting?
Land use, right, Tariq?
Tariq,
What meets
Wait a
on
minute.
Tuesdays, Tariq, of the city council?
What meets on Tuesdays is land use.
That's good for me, but as long as it's not the same night as the city council night.
no, Monday's the city.
But Tariq, you're on land use, aren't you?
Wait, what?
We
We're
need to move
talking
the
about
meeting.
changing the meeting date for February because of school
What
vacation
day?
week. To the
Tuesday,
28th.
28th.
Tuesday, 2/8.
That's
2/8.
Wednesday.
Oh,
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday, the
The
28th.
8th is,
of
the 8th
February.
is Wednesday.
Yes.
22.
Oh,
And the
28th.
28th.
Oh, I thought you said 2 February 8th.
we're trying
Okay,
to.
the last day of
talking about
February,
me.
Tariq.
We're really
The
trying.
28th is Tuesday. You're asking, is there a land use committee meeting that day?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I have NTC meetings and ours lands on February 14th and it's been determined we're not going to have it. I'm trying to find my email to what it's being changed to.
But why does that, why does?
Because
why-
we can't get a quorum together, we don't think, during school vacation week. You were multitasking, so.
The
we decided-
28th, but the 28th isn't school vacation week.
No, that's why
that's
we're
what we're
talking
asking,
about
if it's
moving it to
asking.
there.
So then, you all.
Tariq, get with the
you all
program,
think-
Tariq.
It's too long. Is that what the problem? Tariq, pay
The 20
attention.
The 28th.
Okay, let's just go with the last
Go to
one.
What does
bed.
that have to do with anything?
Okay,
I make
you
a
know what?
motion, we go with the
Revisit
week
this.
after.
Would anyone like to do it on the 28th? Is that okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
He
here.
wants to go to bed. He's tired.
Because we want to hear about your
28th?
France trip.
Okay, so we'll do it on the 28th.
Yes, Dana.
Yeah, and we
What's
want to
the
give
Tuesday?
Nancy a little extra time so she can be comfortable.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh, I won't be
Okay.
back, but from my trip, but that's okay. That's just one person. I'm just, if
Okay.
you do it the 28th. Sorry.
Okay.
Why don't you come on from London?
When I come
It's
out.
gonna be like 3 in the morning.
I come with my granddaughter from London all the time.
Okay, enough. You gotta go to bed. I'm
Okay,
tired.
you're saying the 28th then, right? Okay.
We're switching it
Thank
to the 28th. I'll put
Okay.
that on the, on our calendar. Okay,
Good.
and I think that's it, right? Anything else on our agenda we didn't hit? I hope not. I'm ready for bed. So
I think we're.
I move that
would you like to
we
make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
You guys, before we stop, before we end, before I end, I just want to say, like, that was a really good job. That was so helpful to the community, and really, kudos to
Yes.
everyone. I think that was such a, that was really good.
I feel really
So.
proud.
Yeah,
Well,
me too. Me too.
As Kathleen suggested, I put in a link for a Zoom for a brief thank you and close out for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Would be nice.
Oh, I see it,
So-
Mark.
Okay,
Yep.
so
Where do you have it?
it's
I
in
see
the
it
chat. Are we,
in the
just
chat.
copy it and then put it in your browser next? But are we adjourned? Are we?
What do we
are.
do? Wait a minute, what are we doing
Move
with that?
The motion to adjourn.
I make
Yeah.
a motion to adjourn.
Turn.
Me
I
too.
second it.
And I vote in favor of it.
Aye.
Okay, so we are adjourned.
Yes.
You take
we
the link.
have.
So copy the link and move there.
Yes.
Where's the link?
Excellent. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.